Welcome to tonight's live stream, everybody. I got an epic show for you tonight. On top of Jimmy Williams and Jimmy Mack, we got Steve Pemberton and Joel Winnicky from Pemberton Raceworks in the house. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about 12-scale oval racing and 12-scale oval nationals coming up. So here is everybody. Jimmy, Steve, and Joel. What's going on, you guys?
Hey, guys.
What's happening?
Thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us tonight, you guys. I appreciate you taking the time.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to try like hell to live up to that intro. Joel and I just sat there, thought we were in Disney Universal Studios.
Oh, baby, just wait. Just wait. It's energy, man.
When I do my podcast, all you get is a picture of me with my glasses staring at the screen going, how the hell is this thing supposed to work? Is that
working? Right.
Oh, my gosh.
So we'll start off with the 12-scale oval nationals. Jimmy Williams on deck.
Well, I tell you what, there's been a lot of work with bringing this back together. It kind of started, I want to say, what was it, Jimmy, about 6-7 months ago now. Just kind of living some nostalgia, thinking back to all the fun as a kid I had running 12-scale. Started a group to see what other like-minded people there were out there, and it just grew from there. I ended up talking to Steve on the phone about getting a 12-scale, and next thing you know, everything started coming together, and we put this event together. And it's just grown, and the response has been great. So I'm extremely looking forward to it.
I think a lot of guys are. I think the word is getting around that the point series is going to be off the hook.
Between that and, everything that's coming up, then we've got, the special event center that they're going to be releasing in the end of October here, so there's so many good things happening in oval right now. It just blows my mind. This, I think, is going to be the beginning of the next step and next level with the best level of oval racing there is.
Yeah. Steve, Joel, you guys want to comment on the Accelerate Sports Complex Humble Beginnings race and get some information out there for these guys so they kind of know what's coming?
Oh, sure. Well, I'm happy to do it. Joel, I should have brought it with us. When we were out in the shop, I would have had the plan. Joel and I have known each other for 30 years. What, you got it?
Yeah.
He's going to go grab it.
Right where it is.
30 years. Yeah, 30 years ago, Joel and I, met each other. Probably even longer than that, probably 33 years ago. And we had the dream of actually eventually doing our own speedway, our own racetrack. Everybody, obviously dreams of doing that someday. If I had $1 million, what would I do? Well, so we took and drew all the plans out, and we've had them. We found them the other day, which is hysterical. Joel's going to go get them. But we found the plans, and I'm like, 30 years later, it's coming true. What we've come to the conclusion of is that it is very hard, if not impossible, to financially afford building a standalone hobby store that will support a snowbird-sized racetrack and then make the mortgage payment every month. I mean, that is just so hard to do. And we've looked at every model possible to do it. And unless you have like a World Supercenter Hobby Town style RC store, just take that much real estate and heat it or air condition it or whatever it is, it's nearly impossible, right? So what we decided to do is said, what if we can find some place that has an existing perfectly flat subfloor, basketball court in our case being the case, that already has a building with the heating and the lighting and the electricity and the refreshments. So we'll have to discuss that a little bit later. The concession stands a little bit on the healthy side. I told them who the clientele that we have. But if we could find a place like that, we would be in fantastic shape. So the Accelerate Sports Complex is an indoor soccer stadium. Parents bring their kids there.
It's gigantic.
How many people show up that place a week? I mean, there's
Thousands.
Yeah, thousands. Every 20 minutes or hour or 2 hours, they got leagues, and they've got practice for baseball, and they got workout rooms. At least that's what I think they are. I don't know exactly what they look like from personal experience, but I think that's what is a lot of people sweating and lifting things and putting it back down again. So.
Right.
We played indoor soccer.
His son played indoor soccer there. So this facility is pretty exciting, and it's got everything we need, and I've got just some super people that I'm dealing with. So now what we're going to do is I put out the money, I bought the carpet, bought the timing system, bought the boards, and hiring the guy from Snowbirds to fly up and help us lay it out. Driver stand, all the on-site hobby store, but it's all going to be a temporary thing. We throw it together Thursday night, we roll the track out, we run the race, and we roll it up Sunday night, and we have a full day of practice on Friday. The format is full day of qualifying on Saturday, mains on Sunday, and then the rest of the day, if you want to stick around, we'll have to figure out what the cost is going to be, and we'll split the cost, and then whoever wants to stay around and have a full day of practice on Sunday on a perfectly groomed track has that option.
Ooh.
So,
I took Monday off of work so I could stick around.
Man, it's beautiful.
Nice.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Joel, you got those things?
Wow, man.
30 years in the making right there, huh?
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can see
You gotta
it.
frame that. Frame that and put that baby on the wall in the shop, man.
We're going to probably have it on display down there. But we want to
Yeah.
do some really fun things. We want to, I tell you what, I'm going to lean on Big Tom for this, to do some things like having a scrolling screen with driver profiles on it so people know. It's just, once we finally get the basics, this first race is going to be, okay, if everybody crosses the line and they all count,
We're good.
oh, see me slumped in the corner with a wet rag on my head,
Right.
But but by the time we get to this, the November race is going to be huge, but the January race is looking to be absolutely out of control.
Yep. We're bringing back the Winter Blast from K&N.
Yeah,
Oh,
Nice.
wow.
If anybody remembers that.
All right.
many moons ago.
Many moons ago.
That was a bucket list race years and years ago.
Yeah,
Oh, sure.
yeah.
Now you'll be able to make it there. I know we plan on coming up for the October race for sure.
Definitely.
That's
from the
great.
humble beginnings, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that should be awesome.
we'd like to try to find out from somebody how many years the Winter Blast actually ran. And then something like
Maybe the guys at what is that, RC Madness out there in Connecticut?
Yeah, I got to talk to Chris Marcy. Chris is the one that granted me the name. He kind of adopted the name for the race that he had last year, and I said, can I do something with it? He goes, take it, run with it. He's wonderful about it. So, but this should be really exciting, and that should be a huge run. But October is going to be awesome, and we're just we're really excited about having everybody show up, and this is a dream come true. And again, for the people up north who want to go to the Snowbirds, they're going to get 3 full, clean opportunities to practice and get their stuff dialed in. And we're doing absolutely everything by the book, exactly the way the Snowbirds does it. This ice is going to be the same size. The infield's the same size. The exterior walls are going to be as close as you can get. The track's going to be actually laid in the same fashion that they lay the carpet, which there's a lot of little tricks to that. So it'll be great. We hope to.
No,
And I found a hotel today too. I don't stay in hotels because I live here, but I don't have to go to the Hampton. But there's a Hampton and a Hilton combined side by side that they're going to give us a tremendous rate on. Brand new hotels. They're absolutely gorgeous. There's a few Fleabag ones in Utica if you're looking for real cheap, but you probably do that once.
Right.
You do that once.
well,
I was gonna say I found one about 7 minutes away, but if somebody's offering a discount, I'll take it.
Yeah, we'll hook you up, brother. We'll hook you up.
well, now it's definitely looking forward to October between the 12 scale nationals kicking it off right in the beginning and your race finishing it up. It's going to be a good month of racing.
Oh yeah. The 12 scale nationals has now become much more of an important race in what we're doing than it ever was before. And if I and Tommy, if I'm talking too long, shut me up or throw something at me because you're bigger than me, But the bottom line is the 12 scale race is super important in the fact that it's going to be the first time we run modified since 2006. And I have talked to some big name racers who are currently, basically you'll find their names in the ranks of the modified racers that currently run at the Snowbirds, maybe almost half of them, who want to run 12 scale mod. And then I've talked to, there is a gentleman who I don't know if I have him. I told him, I said, I will be your voice tonight. Get on the podcast. He is a living legend in RC, Todd Putnam. Todd Putnam has had some health challenges lately, and he's getting himself all put back into shape, all tuned up, and he's coming back out. He's coming to the Humble Beginnings race, and he will be at the mostly at the Winter Blast. And I hear rumblings of a fellow by the name of Jeff Cuffs, who is a top-level driver in the on-road scene, wanting to make a swing at 12-scale modified. So, Putnam was a Roar National champion back in the 90s, early 90s, and he's one of the best racers. He's in the first ballot Hall of Famer as it is.
Wow.
So,
He's
so
still
him
doing
coming back.
motors.
Oh yeah, he does. He does. And we get the radio in his hands every now and again. But he's got a 12 scale car of ours, and he's putting it together, and he's going to bring it out. So we're gonna. But this is
Awesome.
a good point to mention the purpose of going back to modified. Now, I know you and I. This is one of the topics you want to talk about. Why modified? These things are fast enough. Yeah, but the reason is not to go fast. Okay, you could put a modified race on and have it be the slowest race ever. But here's the trick with modified. Back in the day when we used to run at Waltz, we used to run
Or any place you want.
Yeah, exactly. But Waltz with the TQ at Waltz was in stock. With track record was 55 laps. Track record modified was 59. That's 10%, right? 10% difference. So that means if stock was 17.5 at the snowbird, you did 60 laps. Modified would do 66, right? That mathematically works out correct, right? Are we doing 66 laps in mod? No, we're doing 81.
81. Yeah.
So if we took that same proportion, went back to Waltz on a track that you could barely do 59 at, you'd be doing 90.
Right.
Nobody could do 90 laps. You'd kill everybody trying to do 90 laps. It's impossible, right? So the speeds are crazy. But modified used to be there not for an all-out blast as fast as you can go, or else if that was the case, we'd run drag motors and run 1-minute races. Modified was the difference between stock and mod, if you want to consider it this way, was back in the day, stock was a racing format where the motor controlled the speed of the class. Modified was a racing format where the battery controlled the speed of the class. Both of them are very different ways of going about the business. We have found with brushless motors and everything that it is extraordinarily hard to control the speed of the class perfectly with just the motor. Because no matter how tight you build these motors and how spec you make spec, now the finest differences make that much more of a difference.
Right.
Does that sound right? Right?
Yes.
However, in the modified world, basically it's all down to capacity. You could run the hottest motor. I used to run a 14 double at Waltz. You'd show up with a 10 double.
12 double 19.
12 double 19, and Shane Coker ran a 10 double. Now, 3 different motors, but where you geared them, how you rolled the throttle, because they'd all run about the same speed in the end because you only had so much capacity, and the capacity of the battery was consistent. So it's just basically the fuel tank's the same size. So what we want to do is we want to have one class that we tried that we use the fuel tank to control the speed. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Jeff here, Carpoletti says we're staying at your house, bro. That's where the food is.
That's right.
Yeah. You're holding out on us over there, Pemberton.
Well, the food's not here now, but it will be. I'll tell you that.
I thought there was a barbecue going on at your house for that
Oh
weekend or
my
something.
gosh! Hey, Joel's got the smoker and outdoor pizza.
Oh,
Yeah. Bring it over.
cooked meat. I love
We may
cooked
have to have
meat.
one of the food trucks do a special PRW event center plate.
Oh yeah, we're bringing the food trucks.
Yeah,
in.
baby.
We talked about the pre-show, but I'll tell you honestly what happened there. The food trucks at the special event center. I walked in, like I say, this is a health food place, right? I mean, this is not health food, but this is usually used for athletic ventures, which they've never seen the physiques that we're about to lay on them when we get there.
I come rolling in there, they'll be like, "Free Willie."
So we're going to show up. We show up there, and I walk around the whole place. I said, think this will work for us? I said, yeah, we got one problem. He goes, what? I pointed to what they call their concession stands. They've got protein shakes, fruit shakes, smoothies. And I went, this ain't going to work, boys. I said, unless you can jam a cheeseburger or sausage sandwich in that blender, this ain't going to work. So we actually have, this just shows the level of talent we have in the RC industry. Because of the unique clientele that we're bringing, we are rolling in food trucks to the back of the building to support the dietary needs of the clientele.
That's right. Exactly. That's the only way to fly. If you're going to impress me with your car, it better be a food truck, baby.
That's right.
Yeah, Carpoletti says energy drinks and tacos.
Oh my God!
I don't know if that would go together so well, man.
He's got to have a taco truck there for him.
Well, I'll tell you what, this building is 80,000 square feet, right? So he better make sure he's got his running shoes on if that taco starts working on him too fast. He may not be at the closest spot, you know?
Nice.
Yeah. Man caught running across the soccer field during the tournament.
There's a nuclear bomb waiting to happen.
Right,
Oh
right.
my gosh. Yeah.
Definitely going to be fun with.
Yeah, well, I think what happens with the modified, just to finish that point, is that my hope by extending the race to 5 minutes and taking the boost out puts runtime into it and let it back down the speed. Like I say, honestly, if you made the race 14 minutes long, you'd have a race that's slower than 17.5, right?
Right.
I mean, or 21.5. So what we use the runtime as a means to slow the cars down to a speed that's reasonable, yet still modified in the fact that if you have an $80 motor in your car that's a 5.5 and you go, I can't make time, well, turn the EPA and the throttle down or put a 6.5 in. If my 6.5 isn't going fast enough, I put a 5.5 in. I haven't got to spend $250 on a perfectly tuned motor to the absolute perfection. You make the car drivable, you put enough power in it, and you manage it for the 5 minutes. And if we have to go 5.5 minutes to get to the speed that's reasonable, or 6 minutes, we do it.
Well, and this is what you and I talked about with the 12 scale nationals race. We have such a broad spectrum of the classes right now, but with it being new, it's all test and tune.
Sure.
We can try it on the track. Like, we have these ideas, but we don't 100% know, this event is going to work in that so that we can have some factual data to proceed forward with. And who knows, maybe it'll end up at the Snowbirds. It would be nice.
Oh, that conversation is already being had.
Yeah.
It's already happened.
Here's one that me and Jeff are gonna have to wrestle over, dude. He's talking about pitting next to the food truck, dude. I'll wrestle you for that spot, baby.
Oh my gosh.
And then he's got a question here. Do you think we can dump in 5 minutes? Say with the 6.5 12?
I can dump in 3.
Yeah. Joel can dump anything. Every time we get the new batteries out that are higher capacity than the last, we say, we'll never dump these. Right. And here we are at 8,000 dumping in modified. So, or getting close to it, or working to make sure. Right now in open modified, you have a few things happening. You have obviously once the car's hooked up and the grip comes up, you can always handle more speed. You wish you had more speed. But at the same time, the speed control is about ready to melt down, about the time the battery is ready to explode and come out of the car. So I think you go 5 minutes, 6.5 turn, 12 scale. I think that'd be about right. I honestly, God, we're going to try a 5 turn, 6.5, and then the old school tricks are put a 4.5 in it and roll it half throttle the first minute of the race.
Right.
I don't know if that's outside my skill set.
I can't do that.
Joel can do it until the first guy passes him.
Right.
I actually have to drive the cars.
Yeah.
You really have to drive. You have to drive and see what happens in a race like this. People who haven't seen it don't realize that this type of race all of a sudden becomes kind of looks like a breakout race very quickly. Because here's the thing: Joel jumps out to the front. Now I might have all the power in the world. I don't need to go any faster than the guy who's leading right at this point. So I'm behind Joel. Now qualifying, obviously, do the best you can, but you get in the main, right? So I'm following Joel. Joel's setting the pace. I don't have to go ripping by him. And I know that I've only got so much in the tank, and I just got to get to the point where I get close to Joel. Now, Joel could fake me out and start pushing.
You don't know if I'm holding back.
He might be holding back. So what made me fall in love with former racing happened in Connecticut in 1990. I watched Tony Neisinger, Shane Coker, Mike Blackstock, and Chris Dosing, and a few other guys racing 12-scale modified in a 5-minute race. The start up, Coker got right to the lead. He was flying. We thought he had the race. All of a sudden, Neisinger, about the 3-minute mark, rolls up and passes him. I said, wow, talk about having the control. You don't pick up speed halfway through a race, so it has to be him holding it back and then says, now's my time to move. Moved out in front of Coker, had about a half a lap lead. Almost lapped Blackstock. Blackstock got to about 3/4. Tony started saving it a little bit, says, okay, I've got a 3/4 of a lap lead in this first heat. And all of a sudden they said 30 seconds to go. And Tony Neisinger had all he had, and Blackstock hit the freaking throttle, and he looked like a lightning bolt hit his car. He went all the way around, past Neisinger, and won by a half a lap.
Wow.
And he jumps off the driver's stand, comes down, sits in the corner where I was standing, the corner marshal. He looks, I'm just shaking my head in amazement. He goes, he called my bluff. And I'm like, what a game of strategy that is that we're missing today. That if we just control the cars by the capacity of the battery, we could have a whole new form of racing that's really exciting.
Yeah, that sounds like a very interesting theory, so to speak. It makes
Yeah.
sense. It sounds logical to me. I mean,
it kind of sounds like NASCAR guys playing the fuel mileage strategy
right.
on
Exactly.
Super Speedway.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know, them guys don't clear out, in the first half of the race, and then the second half of the race they start deciding who they're going to work with, or
Sure.
whatever, and then
Yeah, that's
the last quarter, they start dicing around.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Well,
Yeah.
that's a big long explanation, guys. Just to explain to you, everybody has this conversation with me, and I know you guys have heard it. If we get a post that goes more than 20 posts long, somebody will say, "I liked it back when it was stock and mod." And there's always the one guy that's under contract to put stock and mod, then the next guy puts the Michael Jackson eat popcorn. That's an IPS, by the way. They fail. And then so you do this whole routine. But the bottom line is that stock and mod was a very nice format. Like I said, one class was controlled by the speed of the motor, one was controlled by the capacity of the battery. The batteries where we started run mod with were 1200s. Then they immediately went to 1700s. Now we're at like 6.5 times or 5.5 times that capacity. Now the capacity to get a car to go to the capacity of the battery, you have to go 2 6s, 2 7s on a snowbird-sized track to blow the batteries out. Nobody can race at that speed effectively. It's very, very hard. So I think it would be neat. Jeff's point here: 4 minutes with 6,000 milliamp batteries. If I could get a 4,000 milliamp battery, we'd run a 4-minute race and we'd have the greatest time of our lives. But it's tough to get batteries. If you don't do a battery that's at the max of the capacity of the available technology, then there's always or a restricted case size. Then there's always a concern that somebody's changing the guts and doing some stupid shit.
yeah. Wow.
Hand out packs.
Yeah.
No, I'm definitely looking forward to it. It's going to be more like that old school day of the 2/3 throttle,
Right.
trying to go, and then have that little extra third if you need to pass, and hopefully
Sure.
you'll have enough to make it across that finish line.
Sure.
Yeah.
Back
To me,
in the day.
that's how it was always. You had to make sure you had enough horsepower to get it done, but effectively. You know what I mean? Like if you got to follow the guy around for half the race and work on him for a while, and then spring it on him, that's how it worked. That's how we always raced.
No,
I remember a conversation with Pete Dagnolo and Brian Ziegler. Anybody remember Ziggy? Ziggy is still one of the greats. And Pete and him were talking, and Ziggy told me, he says, the difference between the way I used to race modified and the way Pete runs modified is I would start the car off, I'd get it rolling, I'd get into, I'd make sure everything was working good, and I'd just work my way into it, and he was great. He says, Pete runs 60 qualifying laps. He runs 60 qualifying laps, like smashes the gas, full speed, hits the bottom of the corner. If you ever watch Pete Dagnolo drive, first lap, hits the gas like a dragster, lifts the front wheels, and hits the perfect line on the entry of the next corner, and then proceeds to do it for the rest of the race. It's so hard to do that, but there's no time to kind of settle it. Like we got to be careful to not blow the tires out on a 12 scale for that long. It's just getting it under control a different way. I hope it works. It's a theory, but I hope it works.
That's why it's great to be able to test and tune it at our event. If it does make it to snowbirds, we have it fine tuned, and we actually have the data to support the theory.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if I can I let's see.
What were you going to say, Jimmy Mac?
So I was going to say at the other end of the spectrum, getting into a 12 scale 21.5 truck.
Yes.
We've actually got 5 or 6 of the on-road guys that are regulars here at the gate that are coming to run oval. They're building 12 scale 21.5 trucks to run.
Oh, nice.
So that class should be pretty decent here this weekend at least. And hopefully we'll have a few more out of town guys coming. I know there's some guys up in Indiana that run that class. I know a few of them are coming down. One or two of the guys out at Southern Indiana Speedway are building full scale 21.5 trucks. So that's a way to get started, I guess, into the 12 scale stuff.
Oh yeah, I think that'll be great. I mean, truck racing, with the 12 scales, it usually is packed tight racing out there. It really
that's
is.
what we're going to be racing local.
Yeah, I mean, we don't run local on Frank's track, which is about 110 foot run line. We're going to be running 17.5 trucks. Well, he has a 17.5 house motor that he uses, and we're just going to grab that one, throw it in the car, and throw it in the truck, and that'll be some fantastic racing.
I know when Tommy got his truck out there for the first time, he came off that track, Steve, if you would have seen him, the smile on his face.
Oh, my God.
It was huge. I don't think I've seen anything that big before. He was just grinning ear to ear after getting out there that first time with that truck, having a good old time.
Oh, that's
I love the 12 scale 21.5. I thought I was going to run 13.5, but it's a little ballistic for me right now. My skill set's not there yet, so I'm going to build another car and I'm going to practice with it. But at the same time, 21.5 truck is just close, and it's more when you guys get together and finally, like, I love the spec racing, I love Euro truck, I love all the lower forms of racing, but when you finally reach that level when you get a chassis that you can pretty much infinitely adjust and make do what you want it to do, there's no other feeling when you throw it on the carpet and it's actually performing exactly how you want it to perform.
Oh
Absolutely,
yes.
yeah.
Oh yes. Now the cars are all custom made to the right weight and everything else like that. Do you realize that 12 scale for years back in the 6 cell days had the same weight limitation that a 4 cell road car had?
No kidding.
Yeah, so the lightest car in a 12, like you'd say, what's the minimum weight here? You go 28 ounces. You go in at 34, 35. Now, one guy one time showed up at a race with a car that was making weight in 12 scale in the early 90s. You know anybody like that, Joe?
Might have been me it was the Halloween race at K&N.
Jeff wants to know what body we're using. Jimmy, do either you guys know the exact part number for that off the top of your head?
Yeah, I do.
It's actually the Mcallister.
It's a 13
body. It's actually listed under 18th scale on their website.
It's number 281. 281 is the Mcallister truck.
You hear that, Jeff? 281 Mcallister truck, buddy.
And they made it for the 18th scale low C slider. And yes. I don't think it fits the low C slider, but it fits the 12 scale like it was absolutely custom made perfect for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a little weird when guys ask me what body to run for that class because I have to tell them it's actually an 18th scale, and they go, "Well, that's too small." I go, "No, it fits perfect on their on their 12 scale."
Isn't that funny with scales now? Because years ago there was an 8 scale car and a 10 scale car. Well, then they started taking 8 scale off road buggies, which have tires, and then putting a shell over the top of it and say that's an 8 scale. Like the Mud Boss is supposed to be a 10 scale slash, right? But the body is about an 8 scale because they're basing it off of the 8 scale size tires.
Tires, right? Yep, exactly.
Crazy.
Yeah, I like the body stuff. I'm kind of a body hoarder, so you'll be getting a call from me eventually here, and I'll probably order half a dozen or so. I always keep stuff vintage laying around. As things go, things get discontinued, and they kind of lose their way, so...
Oh, wow.
I like the truck bodies. I like that the light speed body that you guys had made. Everything looks really, really cool, kind of authentic. And I like the on-road stuff too, but some of the bodies don't even resemble cars anymore. It's just an aerodynamic shell.
And they're super light. I can shed a little light on our light speed body, which we got to rename it as not quite so light speed body.
Right.
Here's a story in case anybody's wondering, because I've had this question a lot. I say, well, why all of a sudden racing modified, now you've got a body weight rule. Well, here's simply what it is. We were out of bodies. Nobody had them. Nobody could get them. And I went to the company that makes, that does the pulling of these things. And I said, we just need 20, 30 bodies, really. Well, we can't do that small run. I said, what about 50? Because you do 50. I'll buy them all in the first. I don't want you to stock them. I'll buy every one of them. And they said, well, it's, with COVID, Lexan is a very, very important piece of manufacturing material. And the work that these fabrication shops have with Lexan is huge. So I said, I'll do 100. I'm desperate. I'll do 100. But I want them out of 20 thousandths, nice and thin like we did before. They shipped me 100 bodies and we're out of 30. So I've got two, and they were very understanding about this, but I got two options. I basically could send them all back and take the chance that they might not do business with me again because they just lost all the money that they were going to make and they got a bunch of bodies they can throw away. Or I can say, let me maintain that relationship with them. But the only way I'm going to hold on to these 100 bodies is if I can talk to the powers that be, which are basically on this call here, and say we need to institute a body rule because these bodies become worthless instantly if I keep them, unless there's a body rule. Because otherwise, then somebody comes out with a 20,000th body, which I could do, and then that'll be the body, and these I get stuck with. So,
right.
So it came down to the choice: do I keep them and make 12 scale at least have a body so we can race, or do I throw them back and we ditch the whole idea? So we ended up keeping them. And Barry Hill was much happier with that idea because the bodies will actually hold up and last and hold their shape a lot better,
Yeah,
so
I remember back in the day I was paying like $20, I think was the maximum dollar amount I was paying for a Lexan body. And when I started getting back into this stuff, like 190 millimeter touring car body from a manufacturer is almost $40, and now it's $11 to ship it. So you're paying $50 a pop, at least $48 to $50 a pop to get a body.
yeah.
And I find what'd you say, Joe?
The fifth scale bodies.
Right.
It's $300 for a late model.
Whoa, bro! Holy cow!
It's like 4 feet long.
4 feet long.
I can't even imagine. I was at a track here over the border, and I saw just regular 10 scale late model bodies for $99.99.
Oh my God!
Oh yeah.
Oh, they're expensive.
Yeah, it's like, wow, man, this is a piece of Lexan. Like,
well, here's the thing: the natural progression of it is lighter is faster. Obviously, the lighter you make the body, the faster the car is going to go. It's a very, very, pretty much definitive in any class. If you get the car, the top lighter, you're going to go faster. But the other problem is that there is no limit to that. If you say, well, I'll take 10 grams off and I'm faster. Well, 20 grams is faster, and 30 grams is faster. So the 12 scale on-road bodies, of course, you say, well, that can't make as much a difference. It's only this far off the ground, and the body is scalloped to fall right into the car, so it's the whole car is not more than 2 inches tall.
right.
So yeah, that can't make a difference in 12 scale. Wrong.
Yeah.
Right. Those things, they've got bodies down there the rear tail section is it's thinner than that. It's just there's 6-7 thousandths thick in the corners.
And I've seen Wayne Gerber get 3/10 out of changing his body.
Yeah, you can.
Oh, yeah.
There's no question about it.
Going from one body to another, and suddenly your car's 3/10 quicker, and you didn't do anything but change the body. It's like, wow,
Right.
maybe the test bed is correct. I like to run whatever I think looks good. I don't give a crap how effective it is. I just want my stuff to look good rolling around the track.
Well, right. And that way the difference between a 90 gram body and a 92 gram body or an 88 or 95 gram body it is not so as gigantic as when you get down to the super, super lightweight differences where there's 10 and 20 grams between them. So throw a nice paint job on it, make it look good, have some fun. That's what we really want to see happen.
And now
Yeah,
the
that's
90 gram is with the wing included on it too.
Right, 90 grams.
That's ready to go, race ready, painted, wing mounted, and all that with. So I think when some people first saw it, they saw 90 grams on the body weight, and I don't think they were thinking that included the wing.
Right.
It was like, no, that's the overall weight once the wing and everything's mounted. So
Right. I'll get you. We've got a non-painted body that's been cut out, and I'll get you the weight of what it's a standard body with nothing on it. But I appreciate you guys letting me have input to that rule because one thing that I wrote to Jimmy Mack here is that if you have a lightweight body, don't throw it out. run it. But you want to add the additional weight, put it on either the hood, the roof, or the trunk. And the reason, normally they say if it's light, add it to the roof. But here's the thing, if you use it to the hood, the roof, or the trunk, centered, those are the words I use, hood, roof, or trunk, centered, it'll be basically in the middle of the car, so it'll be really similar to what a heavier weight body would be. So you don't have, there's not that many of them left out there, but at least you ain't got to throw them away, you know?
Right. Jeff says the body I ran at the gate last time with the wing was 59 grams.
Yep,
With the wing.
Yep, exactly. And did you have a slow motion video of that thing? Because I'm telling you what, the hood was crashing down on mine.
Watch it. I click and everything.
Yeah, and here's my 2 cents from Jeff too. It's got to be pretty if it can't be fast, always.
There you go.
I'm the slow guy, baby. I'm going to paint that thing and look like a traffic cone so I can see it out there.
Amen.
We need some half wraps.
Yeah.
That's my whole theory with the hair. I just let the girl. We just keep changing the color up. At least I look good if I'm not running fast.
That's what you say, baby. If you can't, what does Mel say? He used to say, if you can't be good, or if you can't be fast, be spectacular.
There you go.
If you can't be fast, be spectacular. That's me, baby. I want to be spectacular.
There you go. Oh, that's awesome.
I'm looking forward to all this, man. I'm looking forward to everybody kind of growing together and working together and making these events what they can be. I know this is going to be an epic season of carpet oval racing, you guys.
I really think so. I'm hearing a lot of good stuff from everybody. We're getting ready to release our 2 cars, the new version 12 scale, the finalized version 12 scale, and the new 4.7 10th scale. I know I've worked with a lot of other manufacturers. We're going to keep the same SK this year, but I know a couple other manufacturers are going to be releasing their SK cars for the season. So, and I'm sure there's going to be a couple companies joining us in the 12 scale market. So I think there's just going to be a lot of excitement going on.
Hey, there already is, baby. This is already excitement. We're already putting the nose to the grindstone. You guys are working hard, making all this happen. I never knew in a million years all the time and dedication that it takes to put on these events, like something of the quality of the Snowbirds or whatever. The higher end track maintenance and making it all happen, the contacts and hours and hours on the phone. Jimmy Williams mentioned tonight he had thousands of minutes on his phone calls this week trying to put all this together.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. I'll tell you what, every person that gets together and has to do this stuff, I have the utmost respect for all racers, of course. But I have the utmost respect for the guys who do the extra stuff like you guys are doing here. Because you guys know it's
not easy.
It's not easy. And Joel does an awful lot of this stuff behind the scenes and then has to hear me gripe and complain when somebody gets online and starts shooting their mouth off about something. That just sends me into orbit, because
Popcorn.
oh, yeah.
Well, like I tell Jimmy Williams, you gotta love the haters because the haters make you famous.
Yeah, I guess so.
You know what I mean? The haters make you famous, bro. Let them talk.
Oh, yeah.
Anytime there's change, people get upset about it.
Yeah.
But, I've made the statement before in that this whole year with our series, this 12 scale just coming back, my main focus was it's not going to be as tight of a spectrum class-wise as we wanted it to in that, but we're trying to grow, and we need that factual data, on-track data.
Right.
Not these guys that you mentioned it before with the stock and the mod where they're like, it was great. And I've always told them, I agree with you. It was a great format. Today's world doesn't really allow it. But these are the guys I haven't seen on any oval track in 8 to 10 years.
Right.
Oh, I know.
It's like,
that's the thing. Stock and mod will still work identical to, it would be interesting, but it would be very similar if we had 2,000 milliamp batteries in the cars, because how much faster could you go in a mod car than a stock car today with 2,000 milliamp batteries, right? Picture that. Picture with, if you, I don't know how many milliamps you burn off in a 17.5 race, but do you burn off 2,000 milliamps of that 8,000 milliamp pack? I've never tested it. I don't know. But maybe you do, or maybe you get 1,600 of it. So let's pretend for a moment in our minds that that battery in the car was 2,000. That's all they could stuff into that battery is 2,000 milliamps. Sure, let's have stock and mod. We only need 2 classes, right? One's controlled by the motor, one's controlled by the battery. They're 4 laps apart, and we're back to 1998, 1989. But you make the battery 8500s where we're running that much off the top of the, we're knocking the foam off the head of the beer, right? And then make modified, you can run it to the bottom. The speed difference is going to be gigantic like that, so that makes it improbable to do it. But I think if we, like say, we extend the race, you change that whole dynamic again, and we can see if we can find a way to do it.
We're just best in tune with it. I think it's a great idea, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. I know there's probably at least 6 or 7, if not 8, that I know of for sure that are probably going to run the 12 scale mod.
Mm-hmm.
Beginning between you guys, myself, I believe Sarge is coming up, and there's a few others that have mentioned. So I'm hopeful that we'll get between 10 and 15 for testing it out, which will give us the great data that we need.
Yeah, well, that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, if this works, I know Mike Moreland is watching very closely on how this race works. And I've talked to him because I'm begging and pleading, and I've offered to sponsor the class at the Snowbirds if he has that. And it's very, very possible this works. And your race is first, and my race is a couple of weeks after. If we can get 12 scale mod happening and it looks good, and the racing is the way we want it, and we work the bugs out of it, I think you'll see it as a class at the Snowbirds.
Well, I was watching your poll as it was going through and watching the numbers, and it was very encouraging to see the 12 scale hold its own with the numbers compared to classes that have been run regularly over the past few years. Like that 12 scale was right there with it.
Sure, isn't that something? Isn't that something? Now, we wrote on there 13.5 or mod, and the reason we did that on the poll is we are not. Oh, Jimmy fell over. Hold on. Oh, he's back.
I'm back.
You're shut off. No more drinking, Jimmy.
Oh my gosh! But we had that the poll because we didn't know if we're going to be able to leave the gate in October and go, well, okay, everything catches on fire after the 5 minute or the 4.5 minute mark, and we're going to have to revert to 13.5. But the idea is there's going to be a fast wing class of cars and a slower truck class of cars, and that's what you want. Racing in the 12 scale to be a slow, stable racing in the pack, nice, fight for every 10th class for truck, and you're going to have a fast drivers class in modified, and I think if we can accomplish that, and like I say, I just love to see a class that for the first time, like with the things that you do, even in 13.5, you pull the trigger on a 13.5, you go, oh my God, that's fast. Yeah, in practice on Friday, it's fast. But by the time the track grips up, I remember Phil Marabella, and I TQ'd the last round of the last Snowbirds in 12 scale, and Phil Marabella just laid waste to me in the main. And what he did is fresh tires and a spool, right? And I was thinking about it, but I went, no. I want to keep this car stable. It's going to be a crash fest. I want to be able to hang on to the car. So I'm going to take one run tires and leave the diff in. I made a call. He made a call. His call was the right call. But when you're at the point where and of course, all of us are just wide open from the first bell, right? So if you're in a class where even at 13.5 open, you are wide open from the first bell and a spool. Wide open from the first bell and a spool makes that much of a difference. We got to increase the speed of the class. You got to get to the point where you can actually drive the cars a little bit and have some other strategy involved, because we don't need another one of these wide open in steer, but we got enough of those. We don't need another.
Yeah, I agree.
So.
Back to the weight thing, Jeff made a comment here. You can always get a wrap, dude. He says it's about 10 grams to wrap the body.
Fantastic.
Extra weight. So there's always options.
Yeah, we're going to need a few of those. Yeah. Because otherwise we're going to have Joel paint them. And I got a story for you to help you with that.
Oh, God.
Oh, here we go.
You don't want me to paint a body.
No, you don't. Now, I'm the worst. I can't paint at all. Right, I'm terrible. So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I got to go to this race this week. This is back when Fountain Speedway was in Rochester. It had to be in the late '90s. And I'm like, I don't want. I know you can't even race 12 scale. He goes, well, what's the problem? I said, I got a body. I haven't even painted it. I got nobody to paint it. He says, I can paint. I said, well, you never painted before. He goes, yeah, but I know how to paint. I know what I'm doing. What do you want? I said, just white. Just give me one color, white. And he goes, heck with that. I'll get you a stripe. What color stripe you want? Wow, I'll put a green stripe. So he paints this body up, puts a green racing stripe down it, and paints it white.
It was beautiful.
It was beautiful. I says, wow, I'm going to have you paint bodies more often. So I go out there, I'm driving around, at the track, and somebody hits me, and I get to the inside board, and it kicks me out, and I hit the outside wall, and all the paint fell off the body onto the track.
Oh, snap.
So the phone rings back. This early days cell phone. My cell phone rings. It's in my pocket. They're peeling my car out of the wall. The phone rings. I say hello. And he goes, "Hey, what's going on?" I said, "Joel, what are you up to?" He goes, "Hey, how's that 12 scale run?" I said, "Oh, it's good." He goes, "How's the paint job?" I said, "It's in turn 3." What do you mean? I said, "The car's in turn 3." No, the car's in turn 1. The paint job's still in turn 3.
Right.
Oh my! All the paint fell off the hood right onto the track. It was great.
Oh, yeah.
Joel,
I'm
Joel
right
doesn't
there.
paint anymore.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. Every time I try to do it, it makes a huge mess, and it's more headache than it's worth.
Oh my God! Yeah. There's some beautiful painters out there. Some people just
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
you guys were in Jimmy Williams, man. You had some gorgeous paint jobs on your stuff too.
Yeah.
And I love Jimmy Mac's paint jobs. He's always got the USA American flag teams and stuff like that. That's
Red, white, and blue, baby.
That's it, brother, all the way.
Well, it's like, partially for me, I paid to have a Euro truck body painted up in a Disney Haunted Mansion theme, and it came out
cool.
so beautiful, dude. I can't put it on the carpet.
Oh,
Like I can't see spending the money for the body and then spending the money to have it painted, only to bash the crap out of it and put it in the garbage.
Oh my
Like,
God.
Now I'll stick to the old rattle can method and my fluorescent orange traffic cone OSHA safety color.
I'll tell you what, those Euro trucks are the funniest. That defies all the laws of physics.
Dude, it's so much fun. It's so much fun, but like I said, the ability to try to make adjustments is limited. So,
The funny part is, I grabbed one.
Yeah.
They let me borrow one to race up at CRC. The nose of the car jumps up and down like that. The rear's planted. The front end bounces up and down in the air. The wheels are only on the ground half the time, and it's shaking and rattling.
Did they have a good time?
It was a blast. Our car drove great. I said, "There's
yeah.
no way this thing is handling," but it was.
All right, so
Yeah,
Euro trucks just got added to the October race.
Oh, sorry, bro.
And the winter
Sorry.
blast.
Oh, definitely, dude. When you've got to listen, when you've got to think about ride height, caster, camber, toe in, toe out, droop, and all the myriad of things that you have to think about during the day to race at a higher level, so to speak. When you can sauce some tires and charge a battery and just throw it on the track and go, it makes for good fun. But you got to really wheel the thing to get it to go around the track.
Oh, you can't be gentle with them either. You just got to throw it in as hard as you can and let it rip.
You got to meat hog that thing around every corner, bro.
Every
corner. Yes, sir.
We need to put Joel and Steve in a Spec 10 car.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
dude. Yeah, you talk about wheeling, dude. You want to try that?
I've got a ride at the Oval. Master Shrek is putting me in his car.
What, dude?
Hand up ride. He says, grab the radio and steer. They're just going to hand me the radio as I walk up the driver's stand. I'm like, well, that's the best thing that car has seen in years, and not having me put any wrenches to it, because I could only screw it up.
And the durability, dude, is epic. You get out there and rub fenders and like the Spec 10 guys say, expect the bumper, baby. That's how close it is, and it's fun. But like I said, it's one of those classes where you're on the fence about, do I spend the money and buy a different car and move up, or do I just kind of linger here and stay stagnant and run and try to dominate the class I'm in, kind of thing.
That's an honest question. I'll tell you right now. I've seen this. It's a challenge I have with the tour, because I always tell people, you want to, even though we've kind of said, look, at every class is legal for everybody to run per se. We've tried to hold a sportsman class in the past, and it never works, because people at smaller tracks run slower classes, and then they can't transition it to a big track and leave a slower class open for other people. But what I always tell people is, if you're trying to make the judgment on a conscious level yourself, I say find one class that you are comfortable in and one that you aspire to. Right. What I mean is, you got to go to the Snowbirds, and I always talk about that race, obviously, but you got to go to the Snowbirds with the class going, I'm a contender. If things go right, if I can put it all together, let's get lightning in a bottle here, I might be able to pull this off, right? And that class you're excited about because you really feel like you can make the show, be a contender, and that's great. And there's usually everybody has a class that's somewhere's in that ballpark. And then another class being, I know I'm not as fast as the fast guys, but I'm not going to be last, and I love it because it goes faster than what I'm used to, and I want to try to catch my way up there, you know? And that's so if you have those two classes on your hit list when you show up to a race, you'll have a great time.
Yeah.
That's exactly my goal with coming up for open mod for snowbirds.
Oh, yeah.
I might not be the fastest guy, but if I sit and wait for everyone to go through turn one, I might have a chance of being able to pass them when they're all wrecked.
You got fifth line locked up if you didn't. Yeah. You got fifth line.
I can't tell you how many races that strategy has worked for me in the past, where you let them all, the tone goes off, and they all pile into the turn, and then you drive around them. Like, you hesitate for just a split second to see what transpires, and then you drive around them and drive through them, and end up coming out, you know, in the top 5 or so, or top 3 on the lead lap.
Well, nothing makes me more nervous than when you get TQ in a fast class.
Oh.
And you're sitting on that pole, and they're, you know, they say less than 5 on that tone, and you know everybody person behind you is going to jump on it.
You might as well put a target on the back of the car, baby.
You're just sitting here, you're like, please let me hear it and get that jump just so I don't get rear-ended right from the beginning. But, man, nothing makes me more nervous than sitting on TQ at that point.
Well, at modified, it's even more frightening because not only do you know everybody's ready to run through you, but the second thing is that they've all got the power from the back row to hit you in the first corner. I mean, and you ready, go, and you hear 10 diffs scream the most violent sound you've ever heard in your life. It's the start of a modified A main is brutal. The most scared I've ever been. I mean, obviously, Tory cars, how scared can you get, right? But the most scared I've ever been in racing is I'm bumped from the B main and made the Mod A main for the first time in my life. So I'm starting 10th in the Mod A main at Snowbirds. Now, Pete Dagnolo TQ'd this year. His car,
he's in turn one.
He's in turn one, right? He's in turn one. And then I'm, and then I'm dead last. So when the time you get all the way back, I'm in turn 4, kind of almost not straight, like not straight in turn 4, hoping. And the horn goes off, and you know how cars, like at a traffic light, leave, one goes, and the next goes, and the next goes? It's not quite like that, but it's kind of like that. And beep, and Pete, of course, slams the gas, lifts the front tires, turns the wheel, zips down the straightaway, and before I'm moving, he's flashing the lights and beeping the horn.
Wow.
Oh, this is going to be a long, long race.
I know I had mentioned with you when we talked about, man, trying even a rolling start with some of them, because with all those crash outs in the beginning, like even if we tested it at the gate when we were there, especially somebody running mod or whatever, you know, everybody can drive a slow first because those cars don't hook up until your first solid lap.
Right. Well, I'll tell you, the Salvases have talked about that for years. And every place we've tried it, it's worked and worked better. You know, it is really, it's a lifesaver because we race all the time. I'll give you a good example. You know, like I say, Eric won the Snowbirds, and his first comment was, but he won the Snowbirds, and the race had like 5 missing cars in it, like a 13-5 race. And he won the race, and his first comment was, "We need rolling starts." He was happy for the win, but he also realized that he didn't get a chance to race 5 of the top guys because they were sitting on the sidelines. So, I mean, I can't say enough about the Salvas brothers. They've been fantastic to work with since they got on the team and did some amazing things with our car and brought the game up. So, but yeah, I'll tell you, it's an interesting thing. They've done a lot of research and they're very well thought out when it comes to what they do. And one of the things they mentioned is that rolling starts. I think it's really helpful. It really is.
Yeah, when I first got into that, the club I was racing with doing the parking lot thing, they did rolling starts, and in the beginning, I really disliked it because it was something different than what I was used to. I wasn't used to, you know, you hear the tone and wide open, you know. I wasn't used to throttle management on a pace lap and waiting for the tone. And sometimes he'd give it to you on the first lap, and sometimes you weren't close enough together. It may take 2 or 3 laps to get everybody gathered up, and then the tone would go off.
Yeah, isn't it fun when you like you wreck and take out 4 cars in the pace lap? Isn't that great, USA? This is going to be fun. This is going to be a fun event.
Yeah.
I had a race in Canada one time. We went up there to race, and it was in Quebec. It was Montreal. It was up by the Speedway, Autodrome Granby. It was in Granby, and it was a wonderful time. The Salvases invited us up. We spent the weekend there, and but everybody speaks French. So if you want to see one of those amazing events in your life, go to that race. And Eric Salvas calls the race half in French and half in English, and he changes his language based on where the guys are in. Like if there's two guys speak English and 4 guys speak French, and the 4 French guys are up front, most of the race is called in French. And he throws some English words every now and again, so we know that we're last, right? And then all of a sudden, if I start moving up through the field, his percentage will start changing to English, which is fascinating to me.
Yeah, it's kind of like work.
Yeah, driver's meeting's all in French.
Yeah, the driver's meeting was all in French, and he gets all done, because he's going to tell me afterwards. I'm just busting their balls, terrible, right? He gets done with the whole driver's meeting in French, and he goes, "Any questions?" And I raised my hand. He looks at me. I went, "Yeah, what?"
Translation, please.
I'll get to you, Steve. I'll get to you. The English is coming next. Oh, we have fun. We had a lot of fun.
So, I know the rumor was that I lost my whole train of thought. Is Jared going to make it up for this race?
There is a possibility of a Jared sighting. Yes, depends on when we leave. He can only get so much time off from work.
Right.
I probably will come up Thursday night.
Okay.
Jared probably won't be able to, but he might be able to come up Friday night separately. So that's going to be nice.
Do you know what you guys were planning? I had a couple guys ask me about 13.5 Open and the Open Mod 10 scale version at the 12 scale race.
Sure.
Are you guys bringing any of your 10 scales with you?
I'm bringing my 10 scale Open Mod. So I'm going to I'm racing 12 scale mod and 10 scale mod for basically the rest of the season. So
Okay.
most of the places I go, if they'll run it, I'll run those classes. Locally, I'm going to run 17.5, 12 scale truck and rubber tire truck and things like that.
Okay.
Small local tracks, but up there, I'll probably run the mod fights because it's a wonderful opportunity. I had so much fun with it the other time.
Yeah, the gate's definitely a nice facility. We're lucky with Norcar and everything that they've allowed Jimmy and I to do this year.
Oh, wonderful, isn't it?
Just really trying to grow this oval back. We finally have that steady schedule, and so that's our whole point is to kind of unite everyone in the area over time, and it's the only way we're all going to survive and move on.
Oh, sure. But you're going to see it grow. I was talking to you guys about this before, and I know we're running late at a time, but I want to tell you, this is one thing I think is going to happen. And Joel, when I met you and we started racing, you were how old? You were just going into college, right?
Yeah, it was probably 17, 18.
17, 18. I was a little older. I'd come off for college. And because I lived in Saratoga Springs, I moved 2 hours out to here. And so we were young. We didn't have any money, but we had all the time in the world, other than school and a little bit of work here and there. So we could race a little bit, but we had a lot of fun. But we a lot of practice. Same shit, we just wear it out, right? Because you couldn't buy anything else. You only had one thing you could buy. And then we got a little more money, and we did a little bit more, and a little bit more time. And then all of a sudden, what happens, right? And we're all in the same thing, because back in the late 80s, early 90s is when RC had a big spike. The first RC Car Action magazine was 1986.
Right.
And everybody got excited about RC because the rechargeable Nikon battery, Sanyo just came out with their 1200 SC, and now we had a battery, so all these old Cox engine, nitro cars, which were hard to start and you couldn't keep them running, were being replaced by electrics that you could just plug and play and go race. And now people were running cars, and RC took a huge spike. Well, all the people that got excited about it back then, and as it started to wane through the 90s and into 2000, what happened? The people that were the ones who were excited about it got married, got a family, got a job, had a kid, had to raise a kid, get him through school. Where are we now? I'll be 54 in a couple of weeks, right? Everybody's getting closer to the retirement. Kids out of the house. A little more houses might be paid off. A little more disposable cash. And all us old timers, just like the old ham radio operators who got back into it after they retired, all us guys are coming back in and bringing our kids and grandkids now.
Yeah,
and I was telling another spike. I think
I was telling Jimmy Williams that with the advent of how things have been, it's like it feels like we're a couple generations behind. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I don't see the amount of younger kids getting into the sport versus the older guys, the ratio is seriously off. When I started racing back in the late '80s, there was way more kids than there was older guys.
That's right.
And now it's the opposite. There's way more older guys and way more diehards than there is actual younger racers. And a lot of it, me and Jimmy Williams have talked about it, is the backyard bashing phase. You know, you get a big monster fifth scale buggy and like, rah, let's go. You know, or the famous Arma 8S electric truck that goes 100 miles an hour out of the box, and you'd rather go to the park with your friends and break shit. So,
Yeah. Well, you know, that's one of the things. I think one of the other things Joel just held up with it probably is right there.
Right there.
You know,
oh yeah, that's what I'm telling you, man.
So you know
You look on YouTube at how many RC bashing videos there are compared to how many RC racing videos there are.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, realize this, and I know we've talked about this before, but realize this: when I first got a radio-controlled car, I had my grandfather, so one generation up from my dad, right? My grandfather, I had him come out of the house, and I showed him, and I was impressed to show him that I could set a car on the sidewalk, hold this controller, and pull a trigger or throw a lever, and it would move with no wires connected to it. And he would go, wow.
Yep.
Now, you try to impress a kid today with that, they're like, I just ordered a set of headphones from China over my phone. It'll be here tomorrow. Wait, really? You pull the lever and it moves? What? So we were amazed with the technology at that point to start with. And then we got further along, and then we got all interested in it, and we started moving forward. But now, just like like I say, my dad was a ham radio operator when he was younger, and then he got back into it after he retired. And I said, well, what's ham radio? Well, look at this. I can push all these buttons. I can build this whole thing, solder it all together, put this antenna, walk up on a 50-foot ladder, spin it around, and I can do this and go, hello, 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 and I can talk to somebody in Canada. I said, I can dial 6 digits and call them from the house.
Right.
You know, so it wasn't as impressive, you know, but that's why, but people always go back to, you listen to your old records, right? Like the old things that you used to do, all the stuff, everybody kind of goes back to what it is that they loved. And all the people with money and time on their hands now are getting to the point where they're able to go back and race cars. Yep. And, but we have to be sensitive to this one fact, and this I always bring into consideration with rulemaking. Goes back to that old stock and mod argument. The reason everybody was content to have 10 or 12 mains in stock, and they were comfortable being in the, that J main of a race, was because they really believed that they could move forward, right? Because we were young, we had no money, we figured, well, what the hell? We'll figure it out, we'll learn, we'll go faster. Okay, you're going to improve. We're going to get older. We're going to get more mature. We're going to get more experience. We're going to go faster. We will make our way to the A main. All that
accumulated wisdom.
Right. So I never, at 54, I don't think I'm going to get any better. Just thinking, I probably ain't going to get any better. It's all downhill from here. So you don't, but when I raced, I didn't race against anybody that had more than a year experience.
Right.
There was nobody with more. The hobby hadn't been around that long. Now a kid shows up and like, man, okay, I'm ready to go. Well, you have all the potential in the world, but realize the guy sitting next to you has been doing this for 31 years.
Yeah. I try to explain that. Me and Jimmy, we both had the conversation. First off, when I got back into this and there was an app for your phone to program your speed controller, my mind was blown.
Oh, my God.
You know what I mean? I started getting back into this stuff, and I'm like, what do you mean programmable speed controller? What are you talking about? Well, there's an app and a Wi-Fi module that you buy, and I was like, what? And then all of a sudden, there's programmable servos. I'm like, what? So all this technology grows and grows and grows, and it's more along the lines of these kids know how to do that stuff, and it makes it more user friendly for them. It's like we don't live in the analog world anymore. The digital era has firmly grasped every aspect of every motorsports. I mean, they've got engine management systems now for real race cars that are affordable and broadcast the telemetry back to your car in the pits. Well, my speed controller does that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. Well, back in the day, Joel could show up. He showed up to race one time. All of a sudden, he was running middle of the pack and up there to the front. Next thing you know, he's putting 2 laps on everybody for 3 weeks until we finally figured out what happened. I didn't know you could buy replacement bearings for the car. He figured out you could. Would you make technology jumps like somebody had showed up with a tire truer once? Oh my God, we couldn't catch it for months.
What are you doing to those tires, dude? Those were $30. Like,
yeah, exactly. And tire
Jim and I were talking about this. What was it, yesterday? I think it was. We get guys down here all the time asking for advice and help and stuff. And when we tell them what we're doing, they go, "Well, that doesn't work for me. So I'm doing this." So you're not going to listen to guys that have years and years of experience in the hobby until you try to go to somewhere else and you're not where you thought you were because you're fast at your local track, but you're not keeping up with the technology or whatever.
Well, I've tried to explain that to several individuals. You know, a couple of guys came to the firecracker, and I was standing at my pit table and listening to them talk, and guys like, man, can you believe these guys? I can't believe these guys, you know? These guys are crazy fast. I said, you got to realize that everybody on that driver stand has been doing this for 30 years and racing almost every single weekend, okay? So you're looking at a lifetime of experience, and then, you know, the kid says, well, I only get a chance to race about 5 times a year. Well, if you're only going to get a chance to race 5 times a year, then don't think you're going to come to a large event and podium.
That's
you know
the fascinating part about oval, Tommy. You're exactly right, and it's the fascinating. The reason I enjoy oval over the other forms of racing is the other forms of racing are even more practice.
Yes. Oh my God.
Like a bad road car with a good driver can win a race. A bad oval car with a good driver may not win a race.
Right.
You know, and but that's the thing. But anything, it's just like golf. You know, I used to play a decent game of golf. I had a horrible swing, but I had a horrible swing that was grooved in solid, and I knew what direction it was going to go. And you can limp your way around a golf course like that. You know, but the thing is, when you don't have the reps, you know, if you're just not doing the reps, you're just not going to. It comes down to that. I mean, Jared is one of the fastest kids you'll ever see in your life, but the number of laps he turns is unbelievable. You know.
Yeah, with like the on-road guys, man. I'm absolutely the slowest guy there. Okay, but when Wayne and Steve and Ron and all them guys give me setup advice, I take it, and it works.
Sure. Oh
yeah. Steve Schuttenberg, I said, man, I need more steering. What do I got to do? Oh, change the springs on the front, change the center shock spring, and, you know, do this, that, and the other thing. And the next thing I know, the car is doing exactly what I wanted it to do based on somebody that races every weekend and has for 25, 30 years. You know?
Oh, yeah. I've done that before, too. I raced a little bit of on-road, and I think Frank Calandri goes, you know, make these changes in the car, it wasn't great right where you put it. So I went out there and I jammed it in the wall, and he goes, "What's wrong with it?" I said, "Nothing." It goes right where I put it. I put it in the wall. That's exactly what
it goes right where I put it.
You can't fix that problem. I can only hold my breath for so long. And for some reason on the road, because I have to hold my breath every lap. So.
Right. Well, it's really technical, and I'm totally game for having fun and trying to do it. But at this point, my skill level's not there yet again. And I just try to stay out of the way. But it's way more technical, and it's a totally different atmosphere, road racing than oval racing. I am, myself, personally, way more relaxed on the driver's stand. You know, we've all gotten to that point where the radio, and our knees are shaking, and the radio is shaking, and you're trying to steer the car. Like, I don't need that adrenaline anymore. I see guys get off the driver's stand and they're so wired, dude. My hands are shaking. I could do this all day. Like, you know, it's like Ricky Bobby. What do I do with my hands? You know? But
Tommy?
Yes, sir.
How did it feel coming off that driver's stand at the Summer Nats?
That was epic, dude. I can't. People, you know, dude, people get it wrong. The They're like, oh man, you guys race and screw around. You're not getting paid. You're not making no money. All you're doing is racing for a little plastic trophy with toy cars. I'm like, wait a minute, bro. You don't understand that I started racing again in 2015, okay? And I've been back and forth working on my junk and trying to level up my game since 2015. And when you finally get a car that performs as well as it should and takes the input that you give it, and suddenly, since 2015 to 21, I finally go to a race and I podium at an event where everything worked out. And it's taken me that long. Right.
You want the class that you sponsored.
Right,
So you got everything out of the way. It was great.
Well, I'll tell you something that's interesting with you guys. I mean, and you know, I love people when they say, you know, well, you don't get paid, you don't make any money doing this, you know, and it's, or you don't race for the money, whatever. And Brian Wynn from CRC, he says, yeah, we don't. It's the most pure form of racing that there is. There's nothing on the line. You're racing for the sake of racing. Exactly. But then when you think about it, here's the funny part. We didn't win anything for that race. My buddy Willie Decker, great RC car driver, also was one of the top dirt modified guys around these parts. Races at Utica Rome Speedway on the dirt. He won. If he wins tomorrow night. If he wins $2,500 to win. Right.
Right.
He just bought an engine for his car, was $38,000.
Exactly.
He's not racing for money either.
People,
I figured that out. You
Yeah,
just
people
ask his
don't get it.
accountant or his wife. He's not racing for him either. What did who won this past weekend at Daytona? It was Brian Blaney won. Do you know how much he made to win that race? Neither does he.
Right.
He doesn't either, right? But I know it isn't a fraction what it costs to put the car on the track. So we're making more money net versus cost than anybody in any form of racing in the world.
Yeah, it's funny because I try to tell people, you know, like, oh, dude, I want a hobby shop. Oh, dude, I want my own racetrack. Well, the first thing I tell them that the RC racing business is not a good business model unless you're willing to make the full commitment. Like you know as well as I do that all those machines and all that experience and all those hours in the shop, like, you got to be dedicated to the hobby and ready to throw down and sacrifice, because it doesn't work that way.
Well, you know, you got to be smart about it. You're absolutely right.
What did Barry tell you?
Oh yeah, Barry Hill had the greatest comment. He goes, I said, I'm thinking of starting a car. And Barry Hill, I love him to death. He's great. Hyperdrive, MSA, IRS, every other company in the world. I said, and I love his Southern accent, his Tennessee accent. I bust his balls all the time with this.
Right.
He says to me, I said, well, Barry, I said, I'm thinking of start my own car business 10 years ago. He goes, you going to start your own car business, huh? I said, yep. He goes, well, tell you what I'll do. Instead of you starting your own car business, how about you do this? You mail me a check for $4,000, and then January, when I see you at the Snowbirds, I'll kick you in the nuts. he says you'll be money ahead, and it won't hurt as bad. And I'm like, you know, I called him in January. He goes, well, what do you think of my offer? I said, I could probably be money ahead, and it wouldn't hurt as bad. You know?
Yeah. It takes a lot of dedication. A lot of people, you know, it's like every other hobby I've been involved in. There's a core group of dedicated people, and then there's the guys that just show up and pay their money to do their thing. Basically, it runs on everything, and like we say, you know, support your local track, man. Go, by all means, go buy some equipment and get into racing and figure out what direction you want to go. But at the same time, don't expect to throw your car in the carpet when there's 7 other guys on the driver's stand who've got 25 years more experience than you, and you think you're gonna be competitive and gonna be maybe on the podium by the end of the day.
Well, everybody's competitive at every level. That's the thing people need to understand. I'll tell you what, if the 5 of us went out and played golf, one of us would win. But none of us are going on the tour next week.
Right? Exactly.
We can go out every week. If there's 10 guys the same exact skill level, can go out and compete with each other all the time. None of us, we could have the Snowbirds, none of us are as good as Mark Reinhardt or Lamberto Collari or, what's the guy?
Lamberto Collari, that's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Yeah, Lamberto Collari, one of the world's greatest 8-scale on-road racers. And and all and the new guy that the new kid from China who's won like 6 world championships now. I mean, these guys are the best in the world, but you have to compare yourself to who you're racing against at a given time. And as long as you've got a group of people around you that are close in speed that you can have a battle against and test your skills and your dedication level. I mean, the Salvas brothers are a great example. I look at how hard they work and how prepared their stuff is. And I go, there's no question where there's a 2-lap difference. No question. I can see it. I can do it, but I haven't gotten yet to the point that I'm willing to put that many hours of that fine of detail into what I'm doing, matching it with the skill and everything else. It's a there's levels to this thing like there is anything else. And you can have fun at every single level.
Well, what I've always told people is the ultimate goal is to go out there and have fun.
Exactly.
Hobby for me has I've made multiple friendships that have turned into, brotherhoods, family.
Right.
Oh yeah.
The stupid chats on the phone, we talk 20 minutes of RC and then we get sidetracked and it's an hour later and we were on some other tangent of whatever. It's like family once you get to go. And that's really the draw that has kept me in the hobby for almost 35 years now.
It's so nice. You'll meet the greatest people you ever meet in your life in this hobby. You'll make some of the best, most long-lasting, sincere friendships.
And a lot of them, you go to the big races and you see these people once a year, twice a year,
and they're closer to you than your family.
Yep.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, it is a fascinating. It's fascinating. And you know what I love about it? And I tell people this: it's silly, as crazy as it is. If you listen to the exchanges on Facebook, when people are just going, and if they didn't get their way.
Right.
If you take and you take those exchanges, if you showed up to kindergarten with that level of maturity, you'd get thrown out, right?
Yeah,
and then when you go to the racetrack and you can be, I mean, in what line of work does a guy go, hey, wait, that's not fair. He was like, you never went through tech. That's bullshit. I'm not racing. I'm packing my shit and going home. You can hear that at least 3 times at any club race every week somewhere in the country. And you go, who's that guy over there? That's Fred. What's he do? He's a doctor. What? He's a doctor? But when you get to the hobby store, you get to the track, all your formalities and all that stuff is gone. You are a kid in a toy train store, sugared up on candy, and you walk in and there's no. It's not that you're not polite, but it's just the raw emotion of being totally at comfort and totally excitement. And you get to appreciate that after a while. And what environment does that guy ever get to act like that? What the hell?
Exactly. The other thing I wanted. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Go ahead, Tom.
Go ahead, brother.
I'll give you a great example of the brotherhood, I guess you could say, of this hobby. Is I was out of RC racing for about 10 years in the early 2000s, and I had just moved back to Orlando, and through reading the magazines and things like that back then, and I found out that the Snowbird Nationals were coming to Orlando in like 2005, I think it was when they went to the first hotel there. They had just lost their place in Tampa and were coming back. So I went to that race and I'm like, man, these are all the guys that I read about in the magazines all the time. Tony Stewart shows up.
What, dude?
To run a sprint car.
Custom Works, yeah.
No, Tony Stewart, the NASCAR driver. This was before.
Yeah.
This was before he even got involved with Custom Works. And I was like, wow, this hobby is big enough for these guys to come and play with toy cars in their off time. Because I think it was during the week of it was either the week right before Speed Weeks in Daytona.
Yep, sure. I remember that year because I was down there with Joel and we were lined to practice oval at 6 o'clock in the morning. We got to bed around 4 o'clock in the morning. He said, I got to go run this run. So I go down the street. I got my jammies, my slippers, and my bathrobe on, right? I walk down. Again, how much more comfortable can you be around people?
Exactly, right?
I'm standing in turn one, and Joel's in the line to get on the driver's stand, and Arnie Cly was driving his car around, and I'm wiping I got the coffee in one hand, I'm wiping the shit out of my eyes. I'm like, man, I says, his body's rubbing. And there's a guy kneeled down and goes, nah, his right front tire's too small. I said, all right. He goes off a few more laps. He goes, bring it in. He changes the right front tire, puts it back out. Still rubbing. I said, the body's rubbing, dude. He goes, no, I just think it's a tire. It'll come in. So if I go 2 more laps, he comes over, and I said, you need the scissors? I got scissors with me. He reaches up and hands it. It's Tony Stewart, right? He's on his knees, pitting Arnie's car. And I'm thinking, and when he reaches to grab him, he just won the Winston Cup Championship, so he's got the ring on, right? So he hands it up. I'm standing there in my jammies. I hand him a pair of scissors going, I've been arguing with this guy with a Winston Cup Championship ring on as to what's wrong with the car.
Oh, yeah, right.
But I was right. His body was rubbing.
Well, that brings me. Go on, Jimmy.
So, 2.5 years later, I'm like, I got to get back into this hobby.
Yeah.
So I started asking around. I'm on the message board. Back then we were using Hobby Talk and RC Tech and stuff. And I had been racing Legends cars in Orlando for a little bit. I don't know, Steve. Do you guys remember Gene Crane? Down there?
I know Gene real well.
So Gene's like, he messaged me one night, and he's like, I got a car for you. He says, I'll hook you up. So he sold me an old leading edge car. This is back we were still running four cell brush motors. And then I didn't have any batteries, and it was like 3 weeks before the snowbirds. So I forget who it was, but one of the Salvas guys says, come see me on Tuesday or Wednesday. He says, I'll give you some batteries to run at the snowbirds. I was like, what?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, he says, I got some extra packs. He says, you can run them. I was like, you got to be kidding me. And that's where it went. That's when I started meeting all these guys down there at the Snowbirds, the Salvas brothers, Steve and Joel down there. In fact, I think Joel and I ran the last brush motor class down there.
Trucks.
Truck, 19-turn truck, 4-cell 19-turn truck. Ricky and Tommy Bug and all them guys from Impact, started meeting them guys down there. Nick Bell, I consider myself a nobody because I'm not nationally known like these guys are. But for them guys, for them guys to know me from races I've done up here, and to say hi to me every time I come down to the Snowbirds, it really makes you feel like a part of family because it is a big event down there. It's not just the racing; it's seeing all your friends and everybody all week long. It's a really great time.
That's awesome.
So,
well, with that being said, I got one more topic I want to throw at you guys, and I haven't given it a whole lot of thought yet, but to me it's something that I see coming down the pike, and it's the whole racing for money deal. With all this talk about it's not about the money, it's not about the trophy, it's about the relationships and the camaraderie, the fellowship among racers, sharing the experience. And I've had posts removed from other Facebook groups where people have asked, what do you want? Do you want money or do you want a trophy? And I'm like, if you're in this hobby for trophies and money, you're in this hobby for the wrong reasons. It's about the camaraderie, the fellowship, and the experience all together. And, I go back to see who's responded and my post is gone. So it's like I've had a few posts and I've seen a few posts where these guys are now talking about payouts instead of trophies. So what, initially, what are your initial response or thoughts on all that? Anybody want to go first?
In oval racing, it gets a little iffy racing for money. There's a lot of dirt races that race for money, but there's always that factor of guys running through the field and running over the top of people to get the money.
Yeah, you gotta be able to. You don't have the factor of somebody's life on the line. Like a guy will not try to kill you in a real sprint car or a real late model for $200. But for $200, a guy might flip your RC car over into the grandstand, you know,
Yeah.
because there's no life on the. You know what I mean? That's what
Right.
makes it impossible, I think.
What do you
It's
think, Joel?
drag racing.
What do you think,
In-
Joel?
I think it makes for dirty racing.
Yeah.
Because first and second you're coming down, last lap, and you're right behind each other. For if there's $1,000 on the line, I'm gonna punt you to try to get it.
Right.
You know,
You heard it. You heard it here first.
See, at least he's honest, though.
Joel is going to punch you.
Same thing.
No, I know.
You know, it would make it exciting. My thought is it would make it exciting for small amounts of money, 100 to win, 50 for second, 25 for third, something like that, or at the higher levels, where you got, where you got guys who are spending zillions of dollars on this stuff and want to throw a few bucks back in their pocket. I mean, I know the dirt guys like to do it, and that's fun. The reason the money's so big in drag racing is no cars come in contact with each other.
Right.
That's because then they can't. But what do you do if a guy is leading and the second place guy is second, and then his buddy is a lap car, and the lap car takes the leader out with 2 laps to go?
Right.
I mean, for $1,000, either there's going to be a fist fight or there's going to be a lawsuit. And you got it. I remember I raced $1,000 to win a late model race in North Carolina one time. I wasn't in the A main, thank God, but it was the most tense I've ever seen 10 guys on a driver's stand in my life.
Yep.
Before that race, because not only did they want to win, but they also didn't want to be the guy that caused the wreck. Imagine if you spun out in front of the leader and cost him $1,000.
Yeah. I think it started trickling down, like you said, from the drag racing scene with the no prep guys, because there's always side bets going on, and there's always cash to win, and it's a whole different field and a whole different experience, drag racing. I grew up drag racing, so basically I know the format, you know what I mean? And when you pay your entry fee and you run your race and you get eliminated, there was a lot of times where they did what they call a buyback, where for another $20 you could get back in the staging lanes and go one more time to see if you made it to the next round. Well, it wasn't about, the money or whatever. It was always about who you put on the trailer. And if you got to put some fast guy on the trailer and send him home and make it to the next round, then yeah, I could see getting one-on-one in the finals for $100 or whatever. But having it trickle down into the other genres of racing, I'm really.
Yeah,
I really don't have any positive remarks, man. That's why I'm kind of bouncing it off you guys, because I don't see that whole scenario going well at all.
Well, again, it's hysterical when you think about racing for $100. You put a $3,000 car, you're rolling $25,000 equipment with a $3,000 worth of racing rig on there, and you get $100. It's not worth it for the hard feelings that could bet. Though I tell you, there may be a place for it. I mean, let's face it. When you just said it, there's a lot of side bets going on. There are people that are gamblers. That people, if they have spare time, they like to play cards. They like to bet on the horses. They like to sit around the track and play. Who's the hack or whatever game and think in this next race. And I've seen that. And for guys who are of that mindset, I'm not a gambler. I like winning money, but I hate the hell to lose it. Yep. So my hatred of losing it makes me not interested in gambling it. But but I'll tell you, there's people that like that. And if there's a group of people that I guess you could have a class that would be something or other for so much to win, and see who it attracts. See, that's a beautiful part. I hate having a zillion classes, but having a multitude of classes, now we have a 35-year expanse of people with different levels of commitment and engagement, and different levels of talent, and different levels of interest in the hobby. You need to have a place for as many people as you can without trying to minimize it. We're always got our hands on trying to close the class count down, but it's naturally trying to expand out. But there could be a place for that, and just make a place for it and see who it attracts, But widespread now.
We'll just have to kind of wait and see what happens here and what direction it decides to go in.
Well, I want to thank you guys. No, go ahead, Jimmy.
I think here back in the springtime, was it Scotty Ernst that put on that race out in Las Vegas, that drag race?
No,
But Yeah, it paid out like $30,000.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, King of the Streets or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
They had several hundred entries. But the other thing I got to tell you is that drag racing is not like club racing. You're not going to go to a
Right.
track and spend $20 and have your entry. When you go drag racing, dude, it's over $100 to get in on the deal. You know what I mean? So right up front, your entry fee is almost triple what you're normally paying on the weekends to race at your local club race. You know, I understand that going to larger events takes a little more finances due to the promotions and everything else that goes along with it. But when you're going to driving somewhere, spending money on hotel, food, and lodging, and then you're also spending $100 to enter a race, and you might get 3 passes at it.
Yeah.
You might get 3 passes, and you're there for. What was that, Joel?
6 seconds.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
3
yeah.
2-second passes.
Yeah, these guys are covering 132 feet in less than like 3 seconds or 2 seconds, depending on what class they're running. And
you're there for 3 days.
Yeah.
right. So I'm in on it. I'm going to try it and see what happens eventually, but I'm going to kind of wait for things to kind of wait for the waters to kind of clear up a little bit and not be so muddy. That's about everything I got for the night, man. We've been on for 1 hour and 31 minutes, dude. I can't thank you guys enough for joining me and sharing some of your stories and nostalgia with me. I look forward to seeing you guys again.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
thanks for having us.
Thanks for all the hard work all you guys are doing.
Everybody's doing.
Yeah, your support is racing in a big way, and I know what this takes.
So yeah, definitely.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
hanging with us.
What's
No
that, Jimmy?
I was telling Steve and Joel, thanks for coming on and hanging out with us.
Yeah, I'm really grateful, man. I hope to see you guys here soon. And like I always say at the end of every show, God bless. Until next time, guys. Thanks
Amen.
for tuning in. Thanks for making comments. We'll see you.
Take care, guys.
Thank
Bye-bye
you.
now.
All right.